I want to show you something from exactly 1 year ago. Hurricane season obviously is an annual thing. And just as we're waiting on Hurricane Nate to bear down on the Gulf Coast this weekend, 1 year ago exactly, we were waiting on Hurricane Matthew to bear down on the east coast of Florida.
Good morning. Breaking news. Hurricane Matthew slamming Florida's east coast right now as a major Category 3. The strongest storm to hit that state in a decade. Wind gusts up to 115 miles per hour. Power knocked out to hundreds of thousands. A Sandy-like storm surge expected. Airports, schools, famed theme parks all shut down. And the worst is still to come today, Friday, October 7th, 2016.
From NBC News, this is a special edition of Today, Hurricane Matthew, with Matt Lauer and Savannah Guthrie. Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
All right, so that was a year ago tomorrow morning. A year ago tomorrow, October 7th, Savannah Guthrie and Matt Lauer anchoring the Today Show, focused full force on Hurricane Matthew, right? Matt Lauer starting that broadcast off with, the worst is still to come. You know, Hurricane Matthew did cause some incredible damage, nearly 50 deaths across the United States after it caused hundreds of deaths in Haiti. But as Hurricane Matthew hit the east coast of Florida and it rolled up the southeastern United States, October 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, it caused incredible flooding and, again, about 4 dozen deaths. But that day, it first came ashore in Florida on October 7th, which is a year ago tomorrow. That day was one of the most insane and consequential news days of the last decade in the United States. At the time, we didn't recognize we didn't even recognize a tenth of it. But now, 1 year on, the insanity of that specific day, the importance of what broke that day, all in a matter of hours, is so shocking in retrospect that the great investigative reporter Michael Isikoff and his team at Yahoo News, they have just today produced a new documentary. It's a news documentary about that one day in the news 1 year ago. It's great. You should totally watch it. It's about a half an hour. It's totally worth seeing in its total. We've put a link to the whole thing, which you can watch for free in total. The link is at mattoblog.com. And I'm not going to play the whole thing tonight, but look, this is how it starts.
Friday, October 7th, 2016. I'll never forget it.
We're tracking a major Category 4 Hurricane Matthew turning towards Florida as we speak.
Look, I can't send in first responders to save you in the middle of a storm. You've got to act responsibly and take care of yourself and your family.
Time is running out. Evacuate, evacuate, evacuate.
Hurricane Matthew, which was one of my front burner items that day, within the space of about 2 hours, briefed Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump on Hurricane Matthew.
I do remember Secretary Johnson reaching out and providing a briefing.
Hurricane Matthew is happening, so monitoring that. So I recall it required us to change some travel to Florida, obviously an important state.
And I'll never forget, I got off the phone with both candidates for president, and I thought to myself, they have no idea of the bombshell we're about to drop on both of them with this statement that's going to be issued about Russia, probably 2 hours later.
At 3 p.m., in an unprecedented statement, the White House warns that Russia is interfering with the 2016 U.S. election. So it's all the same day, right? In the same day, in the morning, we wake up to the news of the largest hurricane in a decade coming ashore in Florida. Then at 3 p.m. precisely that same day, Homeland Security Department and the Director of National Intelligence make the first statement by the U.S. government. You know, first in this election, first in any election ever, first time the U.S. government has ever had to say something like this. They put out this formal statement that a foreign government is interfering in our presidential election. That happens at 3 p.m. that day. Huge deal.
In the afternoon, we got the statement from Clapper and Jeh Johnson, and was very surprised to see a statement that was both definitive and yet had a very broad conclusion, which was not just that Russia had hacked the emails, but that they were directing the leaks as well. That's something that we have just never seen before.
We felt very strongly that, knowing what we knew, that it was imperative to share that publicly and with the electorate. If the election did go south for one reason or another, and then afterwards it was learned that we knew about what the Russians were doing and sat silent, there'd be hell to pay.
So they didn't sit silent. They made this remarkable announcement, right? This was going to be a game changer in terms of what the American people understood was going on in this election. This is a month out from the election, right? The government announces that Russia is messing with our election. That news came out at 3 p.m. that day. Absolute game changer. That news survived for 1 hour and 2 minutes that day, because then it was gone.
We didn't know it was coming. We didn't know that it existed. But we got it about 11 a.m.
I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it. Whoa. I did try her. She was married.
It's huge news. Breaking news.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
I moved on her like a bitch. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony and everything. She's totally changed her look.
It's kind of stunning to hear the Republican nominee talk this crudely about women.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, the Donald is good.
Look.
She's your girl's hot as shit.
You are a piece.
Crude and vulgar. Very disturbing.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the
Indefensible.
This is real.
Growing calls for Trump to step down.
I'm sure we haven't heard the last of it.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
Trump, how
nice
are you?
Seeing you. Terrific.
Nice to meet you.
Terrific. You know Billy Bush?
How are you?
Nice to see you. How you doing, Ariane?
So it's only about a 5-minute video, and there's this part on the bus. You see a bus driving through a back lot in Hollywood. Pretty boring. But then after a few seconds, you start hearing this dialogue between Trump and Billy Bush. And, you know, the first 2 minutes, you knew that you were seeing something really different. Called my desk mate over to look at it too, and so she puts the headphones in and I can see her watching it. This reporter next to me is a hardened reporter. She's covered Russia, she's covered all kinds of things that are, you know, very serious. She's seen a lot of things in her life, and she made this noise of like outrage and shock and just like a guttural, Ugh!
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
In those words, when you're a star, they let you do it. There was a weird sense of wonder. Like, he's not BSing for his friend. He is actually reflecting that he can't believe the world lets him get away with it. And once it came out, the traffic numbers were huge. It's the Post has an internal system we use to track web views. We had so much traffic that the system to track web traffic broke. I was not expecting that, but by like an hour in, you could tell this was going to be something really different.
Someone said, "Hey, Palmieri, the Post just broke the story about a tape of Trump saying some really offensive things about women on an Access Hollywood tape." And my first response was irritation at the person who brought this to my attention, because it's like, no, I just wanted to will focus, everyone's focus. If I couldn't even get the focus of our own staff to stay on Russia, I wasn't going to do a very effective job with the press or the public. And so I was irritated, and I was like, don't worry about that. We got to, whatever that is, it sounds like it's going to get attention. We got to keep our focus here. And then the more they told me about the tape, the more I realized that was not going to be possible.
All of a sudden, something came on the TVs, and then all eyes turned to the monitors, and we're listening to the sound. And if you remember correctly, it was being played over and over again, so you didn't hear it just once. And people are all spread out in this room, and there is silence for a long time, people trying to absorb that this is actually real. I remember Hillary Clinton was seated behind me, You know, I saw her face at one point, just in absolute disbelief that we were listening to this coming from a man who was a presidential candidate, a nominee of a major party. This would have to reshape the conversation of the remainder of the campaign.
It's going to change everything, right? That morning, we woke up to the biggest hurricane in a decade hitting the east coast of Florida. 3 p.m. sharp that day, the U.S. government announces that Russia is working to mess with our presidential election. 1 hour and 2 minutes later, 4:02 p.m., Washington Post breaks the news of the Access Hollywood tape. And everybody's thinking, oh, God, this is it. This is it. Now we know what the rest of the campaign will be about, at least. This is the conclusion, basically. This is the last news of import that will ever break about this campaign. That lasted 30 minutes.
Another colleague of mine, Tony Clark, who's the research director, said, it looks like some of John Podesta's emails have been leaked too.
Any day that Hillary Clinton and the word emails are in a story was going to be a bad day for us. What we knew was voters were making no distinction between the WikiLeaks emails and the political emails and John Podesta's emails and Hillary Clinton's emails from Secretary of State.
I mean, at first I just had to laugh because it was so absurd. And obviously not an accident. And to this day, I wonder what the leak of John's emails was meant to cover up or distract from: the Access Hollywood tape or Russia.
This was all one day. Waking up to the largest hurricane in a decade hitting Florida. 3 p.m., the U.S. government says Russia is attacking our election. 4:02 p.m., the tape of the Republican presidential nominee grabbing about sexually assaulting women. 4:30 p.m., the emails that were hacked by Russia from the chairman of the Clinton campaign start to be distributed by WikiLeaks. One day. All in one day. That was a year ago tomorrow. And oh, wait, there's more. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.